Brendan and Christine Banfield owned a beautiful home in a cul-de-sac in the leafy suburb of Herndon, Virginia. He was an armed IRS law enforcement agent, and she was a nurse. Together, they had a beautiful 4-year-old daughter, but they needed help with childcare. So the Banfields hired Juliana Magalhães, a Brazilian au pair, in October of 2021. By August of 2022, Brendan was sleeping with the au pair, sometimes in the marital home, sometimes when Christine was home. They also traveled together, Brendan and Juliana taking a New Year's trip to New York City and ringing in the new year together. Then in February of 2023, prosecutors say they conspired in a twisted plot. They allege the pair opened a fake account on a fetish website, pretending to be Christine. Then they catfished a man named Joseph Ryan and convinced him to come to the home early one morning to engage in a rape fantasy with a knife. In the midst of the rape fantasy, prosecutors say Brendan shot Joseph Ryan and then framed him for Christine's murder by stabbing her with his knife. The au pair has admitted her guilt and testified against Brendan. But now Brendan has chosen to take the stand in his own defense. We are live from Virginia with all the latest in the au pair affair murder trial. Wow. Jaw-dropping day in the au pair affair murder trial. Welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us tonight as everyone gets ready to hunker down this weekend, including in Virginia where all this is happening. Now, the au pair, Juliana Magalhães, she told her story. It is the most important testimony in the case. It is the story about what happened. Prosecutors believe that she is telling the truth and told the truth to the jury about this devious, cold, twisted plot to murder Christine and also take out Joseph Ryan at the same time. So for her not to be telling the truth, the question is why she would lie. Because she's gonna go back to Brazil. The answer is simple. Like, that's an easy argument to make. Of course, she has a reason to lie. Ladies and gentlemen, she says what the prosecution wants to hear, and she goes home to Brazil, and she's done. She's out of prison, she's out of jail. Game over. So there's an explanation as to why she would lie. So what's the truth here? That's really the question, right? It's always the question. In every trial is a search for the truth. That's the job of the jury, to try to figure it out. So you've got two victims. One we know is shot and killed by Brendan Banfield and Juliana Magalhães. They both shot him, admittedly. The question is, what was Joseph Ryan doing inside of that bedroom? Was he actually killing Christine Banfield? And if he isn't, then who is? Well, prosecutors say it's Brendan Banfield who's killing Christine. But Brendan Banfield, remember when he called 911, he said Joseph Ryan was doing it. So I don't think anyone is going to say that Juliana Magalhães, the au pair, is the one who was stabbing Christine to death. It's got to be Ryan or it's got to be Brendan. One or the other. There doesn't seem to be another explanation for all of this. For who is killing Christine. So, Brendan now will tell his story. How is that going to go? What is his story going to be? Is his story going to be that his wife was into this? That his wife was into rape fantasies? That his wife opened up the account on FetLife? That his wife wanted some stranger to come into the house while she's sleeping in the morning and go after her with a knife? How would the guy get in the house? Did she unlock the door? I mean, it seems to me that's the only place he can go here. He can't blame the au pair. And the 911 call, he said Joe Ryan was doing it. If the au pair is killing his wife, why didn't he shoot her? I'm trying to understand what this story is going to be, and it's a cliffhanger now. It's a cliffhanger. Let me take you to the moment today when all this started, because let me set the scene. It's a charge conference. Charge conferences, that's the part of the trial that, you know, it's very relaxed. It's important, but it's just like, which you know, what is the jury going to hear? The lawyers arguing about little nuanced issues about what words the judge will use to instruct the jury when it's time. What charges will there be? All that. Very important, but not overly dramatic. But today it was, and it seemed to shock some people in the courtroom if you listen closely. Take a listen.
Is the defendant going to testify, Mr. Kara?
Yes.
Yeah, excuse me?
Yes.
He is going to testify.
Did you see his reaction? He almost reacted like he didn't know he was testifying. What was that? What is going on in Virginia? Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft, who's joining us live from outside the courthouse in Fairfax County, Virginia. Whoa, I was floored so early today in a charge conference. Like, charge conferences never floor me, Kelly. This one did. Let's talk about the reaction to this announcement, this proclamation inside the courtroom this morning.
Hi there, Vinnie. Surprise, surprise. That was the reaction from many people inside that courtroom. You heard the gasps there. So inside that courtroom, we have many of the family members of Christine Banfield. So her mother and father are there. We heard from her father earlier in this case testifying. She also has a sister there, some nurses, because she was a nurse. So some nurses have been coming into the courtroom, as well as some other family friends. And then on the other side, you have, behind the defendant, you have his father and the woman that his father is married to. But yes, definitely on the side with Christine Banfield, you heard some gasps, because this, of course, was when the jury was not present. So they're reviewing the jury instructions, and then one of the instructions has to relate to whether or not if the defendant is going to be testifying and believe him and things like that. So then the judge asked the defense counsel if he was going to testify, and that's when the defense counsel said he was going to testify. And as you even mentioned, the defendant himself kind of looked up and seemed a little bit surprised. Now, I will say, when the motion to strike was done, this was a few days ago by defense counsel, the judge talked about the witness, Juliana Magalhães. And what she talked about is, well, when you look at it in the light most favorable to the prosecution, you have to take her word for it. What Juliana said happened in this case, and she said that Brendan Banfield did stab his wife to death. And so from a strategy standpoint, defense counsel is really thinking that Brendan Banfield needs to get on the stand and tell his version of events. Talk about why there was blood all over his hands. Most likely we'll hear him say he was rendering aid, because that's what we heard on cross-examination when the defense counsel was asking the blood analyst about that. Brendan Banfield, could that have come from someone rendering aid? So it's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say nonetheless, Vinnie.
Yeah, and I mean, the other part of telling the story is the FetLife account and setting up this early morning rendezvous. Have we heard anything during the course of this trial that would indicate that Christine Banfield was, you know, into alternative sort of sexual lifestyles?
No. Early on, Vinnie, what we heard is that one of the investigators had looked into her past and her history, and it was as if she had never even visited a porn site. So that information came out during testimony. So there does not appear to be, at least what's brought into evidence, any kind of information that she would have visited sites like this. The forensic analyst that has been on the stand, the digital forensics analyst, the private investigator hired by defense counsel, really, though, was giving a lot lot of people, I believe, some doubt inside the courtroom, at least the ones sitting in the gallery. The jurors were definitely taking notes here because he was talking about the timing a lot of the messages and how, for instance, one message might be to the FetLife account talking to Joseph Ryan about things that could be taking place between the two of them. And within 20 seconds later, there's somebody looking up decorating ideas for an office inside of a bedroom. And so the indication is, well, how could Brendan Banfield and the au pair have gotten a hold of her phone so quickly? So definitely was giving jurors something to think about.
Yeah.
And he'll have to explain that on the stand. He will definitely have to explain it.
Absolutely. I'm still floored. All right, Kelly Craft's going to stick around. We've got more for her. Let's bring in our think tank tonight. Joining me, criminal defense attorney Josh Colesrud, also with us, former law enforcement officer and host of the Strong Enough podcast, Claudia King, and finally, entertainment host Holland Reed. Okay, let's go around the horn once here and tell me what you think the story's going to be about what happened. Will he say that, oh yeah, Christine, she was into all this wild stuff, I wasn't into it, and that's why I'm with Juliana. She's a much more conservative woman. Christine was into this crazy stuff. What's he gonna say? Josh, you go first.
You know, I am going to give a response that, is probably going to be a little surprising. I think this is just gamesmanship by the defense team. They want the prosecutors to be focusing on what their cross-examination is going to be this weekend instead of polishing their closing arguments. I wouldn't put it past a defense team to do something like this before a weekend of preparation, especially when they're ahead on the scorecards. And if you look at the defendant today, he seemed surprised as well that his attorneys would say that. Now, if he does take the stand, he's going to have to obviously disavow any knowledge of that website that she was supposedly using about the rape situation. And he's going to probably have to cast some blame on the au pair as well. So that's my prediction. My prediction is that he's not going to testify.
Wow. He lied to the judge. Okay, Claudia King, what are your thoughts here? What kind of story would he tell?
I was actually thinking the same thing that Josh was thinking, that he might not actually testify, and that is why he looked so surprised. I thought it was fun that the judge also seemed surprised when his attorney said yes. But let's say that he does testify. He's kind of roped himself in now, Vinnie, into this defense of what you just said, that Christine was this wild child who suddenly, even though she'd never visited a porn site, decided that at 37 years old, she was finally going to fulfill her rape fantasy dream with this guy, this random guy off of FetLife. I think he's kind of pigeonholed himself into that story, and now he's stuck with it. And if that's what happens, it's not going to play well with the jury at all. Anytime you blame the victim, it does not play well with the jury. And so I think he's playing with fire if he does go that route.
Holland?
I'm going to agree with Josh and Claudia, and I'm just going to add in, I think that if he does testify, I don't think he will, but if he does, he's going to do what he did. What we saw in the camera was cry wolf. I believe he's guilty, but I think he's going to go back to the trying to use emotions to persuade the juror. He's going to play the victim. He's going to be the distraught husband who's married to the Jezebel. He's going to invoke the I didn't know she was doing this and she was cheating on me and what have you, and now I'm the victim of this horrific, setup. But I don't know. I can't see what he could possibly say on the stand that's going to persuade, given the evidence that we saw. I think he's going to try to use emotions over evidence.
All right, think tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to take a look at Brendan Banfield's words, what he has said. What can we glean into it? What does it tell us about what his testimony will be like? Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates two fires, one family wiped out. Prosecutors say Paul Canero murdered his own brother, sister-in-law, and their children in a plot fueled by money and resentment. Was this a carefully staged illusion or a tragic rush to judgment? Tonight, we investigate. Did an affair lead to double murder?
The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office has secured an indictment against Brendan Banfield for the murder of his wife, Christine, and the murder of Mr. Ryan.
Prosecutors allege the defendant planned to run away with the family's au pair. So he killed his wife and another man.
He was there. I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings on Court TV.
The long-awaited perp walk of Brendan Banfield. This is back in September of 2024 at the police station, being transported to a police car. But here you really got your first look at Banfield, and there was a lot of questions because Juliana, the au pair, had been arrested for months behind bars before they finally put the cuffs on Banfield. And this is before they knew they were going to get cooperation from Juliana Magalhães. So it was in the works, but it was not locked in at all. But then they arrested him, and things moved very quickly from there. So he said, or at least his lawyer told the judge that, yes, my client is going to testify. So trying to figure out what that's going to be like, what type of witness will he be. Let's bring in our special guest, behavioral and social scientist, Dr. Abby Morono. Dr. Morono, great to see you tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so what I'm going to do first, I'm going to play for you a 911 call. This is from the day of the murders. Juliana makes the initial call, but then Brendan gets on the phone. I want you to take a listen and tell me what, if anything, you kind of can glean from the way he's speaking and what he says as we prepare for his testimony. You ready?
Yep.
All right, let's take a listen.
Are you on Stablebrook Way? What's your house number?
It's what's the number of this?
Is there somebody else there that can give me the address?
13230 Stablebrook Way.
Okay. And what's your name and what's going on?
My name is Brendan Banfield. I'm a federal agent. This is my house. There's somebody here. I shot him. But he stabbed her. She's bleeding. She's got several marks on her neck. What do I do?
Okay. So what I need you to do is apply direct pressure directly to where she's bleeding from, okay? And if it becomes soaked, just add more cloth to it. It's already there. How old is the person?
I don't know.
The person that's bleeding?
37.
Okay. Okay, so the person that you shot, where is he?
I don't know. I don't know him.
Okay, where is he, though?
He's here. He's on the ground.
Okay. Okay. And the person that he stabbed, where are they now? Are they still in the house? I have rescue coming to you.
All right, Dr. Morono, what did you hear there from Brendan Banfield?
Well, what is interesting, when we're experiencing trauma or extreme sadness, extreme pain, there is this involuntary tightening of the vocal cords. So it creates this vocal strain. That's why, you know, when you're crying, sometimes you're trying to get your words out, and it's like that, and it's very difficult to speak. Now, when someone is trying to appear as if they're experiencing that emotion, they show what's called compensating behaviors, meaning they try and exemplify that emotion in a false way, because genuine emotions and fake emotions work through different motor neuron pathways, meaning it's actually very difficult to activate the same muscles when the emotion isn't genuine. So what he's trying to do, and what it sounds like, is he's trying to make it sound like he's struggling, because I don't hear that tightness of the vocal cords. I don't hear it struggle with his breath. I don't hear that the jolt that comes with that when you're really trying to force the words out. It's like he throws the words like that, like he's trying to compensate for the lack of tightness. It feels forced, so it doesn't feel like genuine sadness coming out in his voice.
Okay, I've got more for you. This is audio from a body cam that was recording at the hospital. Brendan, you'll see him listening to this recording in court, and this is at the moment that he finds out that his wife has passed away. Let's listen.
Your wife has died. So sorry. You were there at the time. So is there any part that I can help? You know, I can explain what happened when she arrived here, but you were there and it sounds like there was a lot of blood loss.
Yes.
And so I think that she died of blood loss. Her airway was actually okay. I'll call the medical examiner, of course, and we'll do an autopsy and make sure we know for certain. But
I was trying to apply pressure.
Yeah. I mean, those were enormous wounds, and you know, it's not.
There were so many.
Yes, and the neck is not compressible.
Okay, so there's two things here, right? There's the audio of him learning that his wife has died and some of the aftermath there, some of the questioning. Plus, we see him listening to it in the moment in court. What are your thoughts?
The first thing that sticks out is there's just a general lack of emotional expressivity on his face. This is a horrifyingly emotional moment. It is very difficult when you're experiencing waves of extreme emotions to hold that back, but his face remains largely controlled. Rather than showing, like I said, those typical emotions that people would show when overwhelmed, it is important to know that some people do freeze in highly distressing situations, but when that occurs, there's observable patterns to say, okay, this is a freeze behavior, like prolonged complete stillness rather than selective movements. And you see like a lip quiver, and he goes to wipe away a tear, even though there was no tear because it didn't fall down, we would have seen it. There's no tightening of the vocal cords in the audio or vocal strain, and there's a general lack of expressive attempts. So it feels managed. So the patterns that we see don't align with what we'd expect with someone who actually is frozen. So the fact that he's generally not expressive is concerning. Instead, what we see is selective behaviors. He tilts his head down, which is very stereotypical when we're sad, but it's also something very easy to fake. And he pulls his brows together, which can generally signal sadness. But with genuine sadness or concern, there are other facial patterns we expect to see. We don't see the coordination of the muscles around the eyes or the lip corner depressors that we should see if that is a genuine expression. So it doesn't mean that there's no emotion present. It looks like the emotion is being managed and the expression is being somewhat artificially expressed.
Dr. Abby Morono, always great to have your insight. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. All right, let's bring back in our think tank. Josh Colesrud, Holland Reed, Claudia King with us. Okay, what type of witness do you think he would make on the stand, Claudia?
I don't think he's going to make a very good witness because I do think he's going to do more of this fake emotion type things, and he does think that he can win with that, kind of like what Holland said earlier. But his little, downturn frowns every now and then and wiping the fake tears, I just think if he does that on the stand, it's going to look more and more contrived the longer that he's there. I think as a law enforcement officer, he thinks that he's going to make a great witness. So he's going to get up there and be very, he's going to be emotional, fake emotional, but he thinks he's going to be great up there and it's going to be a disaster.
Oh, I'm just going to jump in. Nobody threw it to me, but let me tell you something, Vinnie. I think I've said it 1,000 times on this show and in my regular life as a performer. I can spot a bad actor a mile away, a mile away. And I am no Dr. Abby, but I have common sense. And from the very beginning, from that first audio and video of the 911 call, also him being there, there was something that was just completely off with this man. So when he gets on the stand, either he went to some method acting training in the last couple of weeks and he's going to figure out how to pull off an Oscar-winning performance, or he's going to have to really just hone into his believability, which I don't think he has. Everything about him points to over-explaining, overdoing the emotions, or even him saying, like, I'm a federal agent, and then even him saying, I tried to apply pressure. It's like, why is that the part of the story that you're focused on? Because you're trying to build the story within your fake emotional testimony, interviews, or whatever you call it on the back end. So I can smell a bad actor when I see one. I think he's not going to do well on this stand. I mean, at this point, emotion does not equal innocence. And what the defense is trying to do is convince us these emotions, they're trying to argue emotions, but you got to argue the facts. And just because he responded in this, like you did, Vinnie, way is not going to get him off. I mean, we're too sophisticated, I think, in this day and age to know that we've seen this crime play out 1,000,000 times on all True TV, Court TV, all these crime television networks, and this is just going to be one that goes in the books with those.
You know, I think that we need to be careful with evaluating somebody's voice and their twitches and, you know, attribute it to some type of science, because this isn't science, right? There's no peer review article that says that we can tell if somebody is lying based on their vocal cords and twitches in their eyes about a murder. Now, that doesn't mean that he should testify, right? Because if he testifies, what it does is it takes the eyes of the jury off of the differences that the defense wants them to focus on, namely that, you know, Juliet is going to, you know, was offered $10,000 by Netflix to change her story, basically, and be a star of the show about this trial. Take their eyes off the ball regarding the forensic expert who was taken off the case because his views about the evidence was different than his supervisors, and other contradictions. That all goes away if he takes the witness stand, because now they're going to be evaluating exactly what you're talking about. You know, his eyes are twitching. His vocal cords are a little bit different. Maybe he didn't answer the question the way that
Josh,
I would expect.
I think we need a moment. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the defense attacking the catfishing theory plus, coming up next hour.
There's a theory called catfishing. And catfishing, for those who don't know it, and people more experienced and more expert than I will be able to tell you specifically, essentially is assuming the devices of someone in order to get something done. Catfishing is a theory that requires a conclusion that Christine Banfield gave up her devices. The Commonwealth's experts have concluded from the moment that the devices were examined and extracted that she did not give up her devices.
The catfishing is really a big part of this case and the prosecution theory of what happened to Christine Banfield. That it was Brendan and the au pair who were assuming her identity and trying to lure Joseph Ryan over so they could set up this whole twisted plot. Let's head back to Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft. We're in the defense case and the defense on the attack. They've got to go after this catfishing theory. What happened today, Kelly?
Vinnie, absolutely. They have to go against this and talk about the fact that it never happened. And that's what we've been hearing from defense counsel with the witnesses on the stand, in particular today, which I thought was his most important witness in regard to attacking this catfishing theory, because this witness had a lot of conclusions saying, one, catfishing did not take place. Two, the devices, he has no indication from reviewing all of the evidence that the devices of Christine Banfield's were ever taken over by anyone else. One of the things that was shown to the jury was a photograph of Christine Banfield in a bathing suit. So this was shown. This is her FetLife profile picture. So this was shown to the jurors today, and what the witness said, the forensic specialist, he said that Christine Banfield took this picture herself, so did a selfie, and then she sent this photograph to her husband, Brendan Banfield, the defendant, saying new bathing suit. And then this picture was used as her profile picture on the FetLife account. So what the witness is saying is there's no indication it wasn't Christine that didn't post this picture on the account herself. Why don't we go ahead and listen to a bit of what he had to say?
Each account is linked to at least one other account, and that's significant for me as a digital forensic examiner because it's sort of a one or done. And the way the accounts were set up, so the Gmail account was set up first. The Gmail account was used to set up the FetLife account. So you couldn't set up the FetLife account unless you knew about and had access to the Gmail account. To have access to the Gmail account, you'd have to know it existed, A, and then you'd have to have the password to log into it. So the Gmail account sets up the FetLife account. The FetLife account was used to move conversations over to Telegram.
Based upon your review of this data, were you able to draw any opinions related to this case?
I was.
And what were those opinions?
That catfishing did not occur.
So, Vinnie, you heard him there say catfishing did not occur. That was his conclusion in this case. And the Commonwealth wants to use this catfishing theory to say this is how the whole thing was plotted and set up, talking about that premeditation. Defense counsel attacking it as best as he can.
What exactly, if you can sort of summarize, prosecutors, are they saying that they grabbed her phone, that they did it from the computer? Why are these experts looking at this differently?
Well, they're going off of what Juliana Magalhães said. And what Juliana said when she took the stand, Vinnie, is that, yes, they took her work computer. They took her phone. And they would do it when she was in the house. So all of them would be in the house together. They would get a hold of her phone and her work computer and put out these messages. So they took possession of her devices, unbeknownst to her. That's what Juliana is saying on the stand. So we'll have to see if he ends up taking the stand, like defense counsel said, what he has to say in regard to that.
Okay. Also today there were some delays. What's going on down in Virginia?
So, Vinnie, the prosecutor has continual objections to defense counsel's witnesses, what they're saying on the stand, and the presentation of the things that he wants to get into evidence. Some of the accounts, information about what's been on the devices. And so a lot of objections. At the end of the proceedings today, once the jury was sent home, she did give kind of a stern warning to both sides, talking about what she expects, and also talking to defense counsel, basically indicating to him he needs to get his exhibits together, kind of in a way his act together, because she no longer wants to be wasting any more of the jury's time or her time. Let's hear what she had to say.
Please use this extra time to reboot a little bit and get more organized. The wheels were coming off there, and I don't want to waste the jury's time anymore, or witnesses' time, or for that matter, my time. Just remember that you are responsible for your record to keep it clean, not me, not Shannon, okay? So please be wary of your exhibits and your numbers and what you are. Moving forward, I expect, and this is what I expect from all attorneys moving forward, I want all exhibits pre-numbered and in electronic format separately in separate files with the exhibit number already titled on that file, okay? And make sure you have all your witnesses lined up and ready to go.
So, Vinnie, we'll see next week how this goes when we come back. No word yet on if we will be meeting on Monday because the big winter storm is expected around here. So tomorrow we should find out if the Fairfax County Government Center is closed. And the judge said if it is closed, that would mean that we are not going to meet on Monday. So we should have more information tomorrow as to whether or not we'll be having court on Monday.
All right. Kelly Craft in Virginia, hunkering down this weekend. Thanks so much. All right. Josh Colesrud, Holland Rain, Claudia King back with us. Okay. That photo, Holland, that photo. Okay, so the defense says she takes the swimsuit selfie. That's for her FetLife account. But she also sent it to her husband. Huh. How about that?
So I'm going to first say, with Josh and Claudia and I talk about this stuff all the time, and we made a very good point. That photo is not a fetish photo, first and foremost. Maybe it is, but that doesn't seem like something that someone would put out on that type of account, and that's just an opinion. Second, I want to say that this happened to me personally, Vinnie. I had someone that was very close to me who was also an attorney, so who knew all the back channels to cover themselves. I trusted them. I did not have password-protected devices. They were within my home, in my bedroom, bedside, when I'm sleeping or what have you, and took pictures that I had sent to them. Nothing, really nefarious or crazy, but things that I had used after we were going through our bad spouts, and they were definitely, they were an abuser. Me and Claudia talk about this all the time. Little things to use to abuse someone, devices and what have you. And they took pictures of me that were completely private pictures, even some modeling pictures, and created multiple profiles across multiple channels to try to destroy my reputation in some regard. And those included porn sites, those included dating websites, to the point where I had to get online and make an announcement just for my little old self saying, I'm not on a dating website, never have been, never will be. And at the time, it was her posing as myself, sending out messages while I was asleep, while I was in the kitchen cooking her breakfast, and what have you. So it is possible. I do believe that it could take a split second to create that, especially when you're super smart and super fast and you have super, super, super malice intention.
Vinnie, I think that the defense has shown that there's some doubt here about the whole FetLife situation. I mean, the prosecution framed the whole FetLife thing like it was some sort of fingerprint. And I don't know if they didn't think ahead, but, that's the weakest piece of evidence that they have. I mean, you have Detective Miller, who was the originally assigned detective on this case, who basically proclaimed that there wasn't an issue or a question that the victim in this case, she always had her phone and her computer on her. There was no question that somebody else had that. And of course, he gave that story or that opinion before Juliet came forward and changed her story. Now you also have a second expert saying that he doesn't think that there's a catfish situation going on. So, I think that the prosecution has set a trap that they've put their own foot in, and the defense has created so much doubt here that, I don't think that it's going to be necessary for the defendant to decide to actually testify next week.
I just want to go back to the picture for a second, Vinnie, because I just don't think any woman is going to take that photo and use it on her own fetish website attempt to gain this fantasy role-playing scenario. She is a respected nurse in her community. She's going to cover more of her face, first off. She's not going to use some random picture in the bathroom like that. She's going to use something where her face is more covered, maybe a little sexier. Like, I just don't think that's what she would use if she created this site on her own. And I think that Brendan used it because conveniently it was a picture he had. It was something she had taken that was on her phone as well. I think they created this site. Just like Holland said, it's not that hard to gain access to somebody else's devices. I was not convinced by the expert today. He said some other things that just didn't ring true to me, even about you can't log into 2 Gmail accounts on a laptop at the same time. I do it every day. So I just think he did not ring true for me.
All right. Big thanks. We're out of time. I'm sorry, Josh. We're out of time. Normally I could give you the extra time, but I can't tonight. Josh Colesrud, Claudia King, Holland Reed, thank you so much. Stay safe, stay warm this weekend. All right, folks, we have a little update for you on the Ohio case, the Columbus, Ohio case. Michael McKee made his first appearance, not guilty plea for the murders of his ex-wife, Monique, and her husband, the dentist, Spencer Tepe, as well. He faces aggravated murder, aggravated burglary charges in connection to this double murder. There he is, folks. That's his official mugshot. Obviously, we'll stay on top of every development in that case for you here on Closing Arguments. All right, don't go anywhere. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, investigators say greed tore a family apart, ending with gunshots, flames, and 4 lives lost. Paul Canaro faces life without parole for allegedly killing his brother Keith and Keith's family. But after years of delays, will the evidence finally answer who is telling the truth? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Backpack. Luigi Mangione's backpack filled with evidence that he does not want the jury to see. He wants it suppressed. That suppression hearing continuing in New York. Alex Miller from Scripps News Group has the latest for us tonight.
Luigi Mangione, the 27-year-old accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, was back in a federal courtroom Friday morning, fighting the government's efforts to use his backpack and its contents against him. His lawyers say that Altoona Police Department illegally searched his backpack without a search warrant, and inside of it they found a gun, ammunition, silencers, and a journal, amongst other things. Mangione once again calm in federal court Friday, wearing a tan prison jumpsuit as his attorney, Mark Agnifilo, argued the Altoona Police Department did not have guidelines for searching property at the time of Mangione's arrest. The Altoona Police Department's general order, the rule book for officers, explains in detail, according to Agnifilo, of how to search a person once they have been arrested. It details reminders to look through their jacket, their belt, and more, but never mentions how to handle property not on their body, like a backpack. Deputy Chief Nathan Snyder testified in court that if his officers found a gun or ammunition while conducting a search, like they did in this case, they would probably immediately stop and obtain a search warrant. He contradicted himself when the government asked if they'd continue to search to make sure the property was safe, and he said yes. Mangione will be back inside that courtroom next Friday, where they'll discuss a jury questionnaire, amongst other things. The judge has already set jury selection for September 8th. If she throws out the death penalty charge, trial will start in October. If she doesn't, it will start in January 2027. Alex Miller, Scripps News Group, New York.
And the decision on this suppression hearing will clearly impact the case. It may be the whole case for the defense. So obviously, as things develop, we'll bring you all the latest right here. Okay, please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child who needs your help tonight. This is Destiny MacArthur. Destiny is just 17 years old, missing out of Kansas City, Missouri. If you see Destiny, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Kansas City Police Department in Missouri. That phone number's on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Destiny to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.